Comments received. The record of this hearing is being kept open until 8:30 this evening in order to receive relevant evidence from interested parties. At this point, the rulemaking record includes notice of proposed action, the proposed regulations, the initial statement of reasons, the economic and fiscal impact statement, and any comments received to date. These regulations were duly noticed more than 45 days prior to this evening's hearing. The notice of public hearing, along with any information notice, were mailed to residential tenants, along with an informational notice, were mailed to residential tenants who are living within the proposed State Route 17 project corridor. Notices were also mailed to other interested parties who requested rulemaking notices, as well as those parties who were deemed by Caltrans to have a potential interest in the proposed rulemaking process. Caltrans is committed to going through this process as quickly as possible. Selling the properties will require the proposed Affordable Sales Program regulations be adopted in accordance with the Administrative Procedures Act. Regulations proposed by any state agency must be reviewed and approved by the Office of Administrative Law. The Office of Administrative Law will review the rulemaking record to determine whether it demonstrates that Caltrans, as the rulemaking agency, satisfied the procedural requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act, and will review the proposed regulations for compliance with the legal standards set forth in the Administrative Procedures Act. First, that the proposed regulation is necessary to effectuate the purpose of the statute it is implementing. Second, it is clear in terms. Third, it is consistent and not in conflict with or contradictory to existing law. Fourth, it does not duplicate existing state or federal law. And finally, Caltrans' interpretation does not alter, amend, enlarge, or impair the scope of the authority or reference conferred in a statute. If the Office of Administrative Law makes a determination that a proposed regulation does not meet any of these standards, it can disapprove the regulatory proposal. This would mean that the regulation would not go into effect. Additionally, the properties must be declared excess, the environmental document complete to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, and compliance with Public Resource Code Section 5024, which is concerned with ensuring that there is no adverse effect to any historic properties. Caltrans is proposing a regulatory action to adopt a regulation in Title 21, Division 2 of the California Code of Regulations. This sets forth the procedures that will allow Caltrans to dispose of surplus residential properties originally acquired for the State Route 710 extension in the cities of Los Angeles, South Pasadena, and Pasadena, in accordance with Section 54235 through 54238.6, as amended, which is also known as the Reverting Act. The regulations are intended to allow Caltrans to dispose of the residential properties in a manner that will preserve, upgrade, and expand the supply of housing available to affected persons and families of low or moderate income. Copies of the proposed regulatory action and the initial statement of reasons are available at the information table just outside the door. As you enter the room this evening, you are given an opportunity to sign an attendance sheet. If you wish to sign the attendance sheet and have not already done so, please sign it at your convenience before you leave this evening. Please note, you will not be excluded from participating in these proceedings, even if you did not identify yourself or did not sign the attendance sheet. However, if you wish to provide an oral comment, a speaker card will be required. If you have not yet completed a speaker card and wish to make an oral comment tonight, please go to the information table just outside the door, or if you'll raise your hand, an usher will drop a speaker card off for you. An usher will drop a speaker card off for you to complete. Once you have filled out the card, please give it to the representative at the information table or to one of our ushers. He or she will make sure the card is put in the queue. You will be called to the microphone and allowed to make a 2-minute public comment. Speakers will be called based on first-come, first-served basis. Again, only those that have completed a speaker card will be allowed to speak this evening. You are also provided an opportunity to pick up and complete a written comment sheet as you enter the room. If you completed that sheet, or if you have brought written comments with you to submit during the hearing this evening, please place them in the comment box located at the information table. The 45-day written comment period, originally scheduled to end at 5 p.m. on Monday, July 14, 2014, was first extended to 5 p.m. on Thursday, July 31st. On Thursday, July 31st, 2014, and has been subsequently extended to 5 p.m. on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2014. If we do not receive your comments during this public hearing, you may still submit written comments relevant to the proposed regulatory action by mail, facsimile, or email. At the information table, you will find copies of the Notice of Extension of Written Comment Period containing the specific information on how to submit your comments. The Notice of Extension of Written Comment Period was mailed to those who Caltrans believe are interested in the proposed action, including all who were previously notified by mail and those who have subsequently requested notification. This Notice of Extension of Written Comment Period has also been posted on the Caltrans Internet website and published in the California Regulatory Notice Register on August 8, 2014. All written comments received at the prior 2 public hearings and at this evening's public hearing will be considered as part of the rulemaking record. If you wish to receive updates, including the final statement of reasons, which will contain Caltrans' responses to the relevant comments received, please ensure you provide your complete and legible name and mailing address on the attendance sheet or on a comment card or a speaker card before you leave this evening. Again, we are here to receive comments on the proposed regulations for the California Affordable Sales Program. As I indicated earlier, this public hearing is not about the project, the environmental document, maintenance, or repairs. These topics are outside the scope of the proposed regulations, and therefore this panel will not take comments on the aforementioned topics. We welcome input on issues outside the scope of this hearing, but this is not the forum to discuss them. If you have concerns on matters not related to the proposed regulations, please pick up a flyer at the information table which provides contact information. I understand the regulatory language can be complex and it may be unclear which of your concerns relate to this specific hearing. While you are speaking, I may interrupt and remind you to speak to the section of the regulations for which you wish to provide a comment. I will call your name from the completed speaker card submitted. Please do not come forward until I have called your name and asked you to step forward. We are going to do our best to keep an orderly hearing this evening so that everyone can be heard clearly. We ask your help in this by respecting each speaker and limiting your talking to 2 minutes. In order to make sure that everyone has a chance to give input, speakers will be given 2 minutes to make their comments. We have a timer here that shows how much time you have remaining. To be fair to everyone who wishes to speak this evening, I will enforce the 2-minute time limit, and there will be no ceding of time to other speakers, nor will an individual be allowed to speak more than once. If your comment does not address the proposals put forth by Caltrans, I may ask you to return to your seat. A buzzer will sound at the end of the 2 minutes. We heard at one of the prior public hearings that the buzzer was offensive. I apologize in advance if anyone is offended by the buzzer. Unfortunately, there are no optional buzzer sounds available with this particular clock. Again, if you have concerns on matters not related to the regulations, we want to hear about them, just not in this forum. Please pick up a flyer at the information table providing the contact information. We do not wish disruptions to prevent others from offering their views. Consequently, anyone who becomes disruptive will be asked to leave the room. We will conclude this hearing at 8:30 this evening. If you turned in a speaker card before 8:30 and we have not heard your comments, will remain until all persons have had an opportunity to present their comments or the room is no longer available to us. When you speak, I ask that you come forward and speak into the microphone in a clear and audible tone so that participants situated in the back of the room can hear you speak. As you can tell, this microphone is a little touchy. You'll have to talk really close to the microphone, hold it really close and seemingly still. This will allow the court reporter with the best chance of ensuring your comments are accurately recorded. Please begin by stating your name and spell your last name to ensure that the court reporter is able to record the information accurately. State the organization you represent, if any, and then tell us what section of the proposed regulations you wish to provide a comment on. As a final reminder, your input is important to this process. I will not be able to respond to any of your comments or answer questions.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Vamos a comenzar la audiencia pública. Los bancos están a su derecha, después a la izquierda y van a estar al lado derecho. Las salidas de emergencia está 1, 2 y 3. Contamos con una reportera de la corte, que es ella que está aquí atrás, ayudándonos con la grabación de la totalidad de la entrada dada aquí esta noche. Por favor, absténgase de hablar mientras otros hablan, de modo que el reportero de la corte pueda registrar las opiniones de todos correctamente. Su aportación es fundamental. No vamos a ser capaces de responder a cualquier comentario o responder a cualquier pregunta. Caltrans, o Departamento de Transportación, está proponiendo una medida reglamentaria para adoptar un reglamento en el título 21, División 2 del Código de Regulaciones de California. Esto establece los procedimientos que permitirán a Caltrans para disponer de las propiedades residenciales sobrantes originalmente adquiridas por la Ruta Estatal 710 de extensión en las ciudades de Los Ángeles, Sur Pasadena, y de conformidad con la sección 5435 mediante 54.238 modificada, que también se conoce como acto que también se conoce como el Acto Roberti. Los reglamentos tienen por objeto permitir que el Departamento de Transportación, para disponer de las propiedades residenciales en una manera que preservar, mejorar y ampliar la oferta de viviendas a disposiciones de las personas afectadas y las familias de ingresos bajos o moderados. Las copias de la medida reglamentaria propuesta y la declaración inicial de motivos están disponibles en la tabla de información afuera de la puerta. Como usted entró en el cuarto día de hoy, se les dio la oportunidad de firmar en la hoja de asistencia. Si desea firmar la hoja de asistencia y no lo ha hecho, por favor, firme a su conveniencia antes de salir esta noche. Usted no va a ser excluido de la participación en el presente procedimiento si no se identifica o no firmó la lista de asistencia. Sin embargo, si usted desea proporcionar un comentario oral, se requerirá una tarjeta de altavoz. También se les proporcionó la oportunidad de aprender y completar una hoja de comentarios que usted entró en la habitación. Si ha completado esa hoja o si usted ha traído comentarios escritos con usted para presentar durante la audiencia esta noche, por favor, coloca en la caja de comentarios ubicada en la mesa de información, que es la que está afuera. El periodo de los 45 días de los comentarios hechos a mano originalmente terminó el lunes 14 de julio de 2014. Fue prolongado por primera vez a las 5 de la tarde el jueves 31 de julio del 2014 y se ha ampliado de nuevo a las 5 de la tarde el martes 2 de septiembre de 2014. Si no recibimos sus comentarios durante esta audiencia pública, todavía puede presentar comentarios por escrito pertinentes a la acción reguladora propuesta por correo, fax o correo electrónico. En el cuadro de los datos, usted encontrará copias de la notificación de ampliación de plazo de presentación de observaciones por escrito que contenga la información específica sobre la manera de presentar sus observaciones. Si desea recibir actualizaciones que incluyen la declaración final de razones que contendrá Caltrans respuestas a los comentarios recibidos, por favor asegúrese de que su nombre esté completo y la dirección de la hoja de asistencia, tarjeta o hoja de comentarios por escrito. También se les dio la oportunidad de completar una hoja de orador indicada. Deseabas hacer comentarios orales relacionados con las regulaciones propuestas en esta audiencia, con el fin de dar a cada uno un giro igual a presentar sus puntos de vista. Solo los que completó una de las tarjetas se les permitirá hablar. Si usted no completó una tarjeta de orar y desea hablar aquí esta noche, por favor vaya a la tabla de información a las afueras de la puerta. Allí se puede completar una tarjeta de orador y dar al representante en la mesa de información. Una vez más, solo aquellos que han completado una de las tarjetas se les permitirá hablar esta noche. Por favor, asegúrese de que ya ha proporcionado su nombre y su dirección completa y legible en la lista de asistencia, tarjeta de altavoz o comentarios por escrito si desea recibir actualizaciones, incluyendo la declaración final de razones que contengan nuestras respuestas a los comentarios recibidos. Damos la bienvenida a la entrada acerca de asuntos ajenos al ámbito de aplicación de esta audiencia, pero este no es el foro para discutir ellos. Por lo tanto, si usted tiene preocupaciones sobre asuntos no relacionados con el proyecto de estatuto, por favor recoja un folleto en la mesa de información que proporciona información de contacto. Con el fin de asegurarse de que todos tengan la oportunidad de dar su opinión, los oradores se les dará 2 minutos para hacer sus comentarios. Cuando usted habla, le pido que venga hacia adelante y hable en voz alta lo suficiente para el reportero reportero de la corte y el resto de los asistentes pueden oírle. Por favor, hable alto y claro. Comience con su nombre, la ortografía de su apellido, para garantizar el reportero de la corte es capaz de registrar la información de dada precisa, la organización que representa, en su caso, y nos dice el número de la sección de las regulaciones propuestas en las que desea hablar, hacer comentarios. En este momento, vamos a empezar a llamar a los hablantes basados en las tarjetas de hablantes recibidos. Vamos a llamar a uno de los hablantes y los próximos 3 hablantes. Tenemos 3 asientos aquí enfrente para que usted pueda sentarse mientras espera su turno. Si no llamo su nombre, por favor, no venga enfrente. Tenemos un contador de tiempo que está ahí atrás de mí. Cuando el tiempo emite un sonido, el tiempo será acabado y usted tendrá que ceder el micrófono. Gracias.
At this time, I will begin calling up speakers based on the speaker cards I've received. I'm going to call up one speaker and the next 3 speakers. We do have 3 seats up here at the front that are marked as reserved, and you're welcome to come up and wait your turn in those seats. If I don't call your name, please do not come forward. I am reading from the speaker cards as you wrote them. Please forgive me if I have problems pronouncing your name. I will do my best. We have a 2-minute timer. When the time beeps, your time is up, and you'll have to yield the microphone. Remember, the microphone seems to be a little bit touchy, but it seems that it works better if we don't touch it and just speak into the microphone, and Hugo will help to adjust the microphone as necessary. The first speakers that we have registered, first we have Roberto Flores. Roberto, you'll be the first one to speak. Victoria Sandoval, Diana Tiscarino, Saul Cortez. Roberto, for the record, if you will please state your name and spell your last name, and the group or organization you represent, if any, and the section number of the proposed regulations of which you wish to speak.
Testing. Okay, my name is Roberto Flores. ES. The following statement pertains to all sections of the proposal. Introduction and perspective. The following is a collective statement from the United Caltrans tenants. It's unwavering in its perspective, but unfinished in its content because we have been forced to present this prematurely within an unjust 100-day comment period. UCT was formed nearly 2 years ago by tenants from all 3 710 corridor cities, but mainly from El Sereno. UCT formed in response to Caltrans' notice that many tenants' rents were to be raised at a brutal 10% every 6 months, which, by the way, is still an ongoing injustice that Caltrans should stop doing. So far, another unused opportunity by Caltrans to do the right thing and show good faith. The second major issue driving UCT's formation was the lack of property maintenance, vacant property, neglect, disrespect, bullying, and abuse. In a nutshell, Caltrans' overall slumlord property management practices. We from UCT will not go into all the issues that fall under these 2 general categories. There are too many, and this is not why we are here today. Suffice it to say that following United Caltrans tenants' comments are related to Caltrans regulations proposal and represent the wishes of the tenants from the El Sereno, South Pasadena, and Pasadena areas. We are here to uphold the spirit and fairness and protections of the community that the reverting bill embodies. Two corrections from the introduction. This was not mailed to everybody. And secondly, this hearing does not have a 45-day period advance notice. So it's really illegal. It's against the APA.
After you say your name. Victoria Sandoval.
Victoria Sandoval, I'm from the UCT organization. I'm going to speak to section 54235. I'm speaking to the spirit and intent of the reverting law and the APA law. The reverting law states and declares that the sale of surplus residential property pursuant to the provisions of this article will directly serve an important public purpose. Wherefore, the legislature intends by this article to preserve, upgrade, and expand the supply of housing available to persons and families of low or moderate income. The legislature further intends by this article to mitigate the environmental effects within the meaning of Article 19 of the California Constitution caused by highway activities. UCT's proposal is based on the reverting law's spirit of providing affordable housing and in not only mitigating, alleviating the environmental impact or the damage done to the communities by the initial acquisition of the 710 corridor houses, but in making sure that the three communities affected by the initial purchase do not suffer any additional trauma and destruction. UCT's proposal is also based on the fact that we as renters are major stakeholders on the sale of our homes. We tenants and former tenants have a right to a comment period that would allow us meaningful participation throughout the entire process. This right is based on the Administrative Procedure Act, APA law, that was designed to guarantee the public meaningful participation. The APA law, section 11340 to 11342.4, was established with the following stated reasons. The language of many regulations is frequently unclear and unnecessarily complex. The language is often confusing to the persons who must comply with the regulations. The complexity and lack of clarity in many regulations put small businesses, the public, who do not have the resources to hire experts to assist them at a distinct disadvantage.
Saul.
No, pero no le está hablando a ellos. For the record. No, why? Jennifer, why?
So they can see the law.
No, they don't have to see the clock. They can hear the clip.
Okay.
We want to talk to the community.
If they're fine, that's fine. As long as we can get it on record, that's fine.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sure.
My name is Saul Cortez, from the House 317 corridor.
Excuse me, having trouble hearing. The microphone will do it.
My name is Saul Cortez, I'm from the 710 corridor, and I'm from the UCT organization. I'm going to talk on 4 subjects. 1, extended comment period to 120 days. The Administrative Procedures Act 11340-11342.4 recognizes that the language of many regulations is frequently unclear and unnecessarily complex. The language is often confused to the persons who must comply with the regulations, and that the complexity and the lack of clarity in many regulations puts small businesses and the public, which do not have the resources to hire experts to assist them, a public distinct disadvantage. UCT is a major stakeholder in this regulation process. The final form of the regulations will take profound impact to our membership. We have to comment on all and comply with the regulations without guidance from hired experts. An insufficient comment period puts UCT and the overall public at a distinct disadvantage. Therefore, in order to allow meaningful participation in the development of these regulations, we propose the comment period to be extended 120 days. 2, the offer credit for rent received. The sum of all rent paid to Caltrans should be credited to or deducted from the purchase price offered to tenants. The amount that is credited should not exceed the amount of the original housing purchase price, OHPP. 3, purchase price definition. The purchase price should be no less than OHPP and no greater than the OHPP adjusted for inflation, Rule 72. 4, eliminate the exclusion from eligibility to purchase based on real property ownership in the last 3 years.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers, or next 4 speakers are Marcia, Marie IBSEN, Molly Lopez, and Patrick Garcia. Marcia, Marcia, MARXELLY.
My name is Marcia Martelli, MARXELLY. The organization I represent is UCT, and the sections I'll be reading are eliminate the exclusion from eligibility, multi-dwelling units, and the 30-year covenants. The exclusion from eligibility to purchase based on real property ownership during the last 3 years should be eliminated because it unfairly discriminates against those who, number 1, are seniors who may have purchased retirement properties, number 2, have inherited the real property of immaterial value, number 3, had property interests and lost them over the last 3 years, number 4, have property that is upside down, and number 5, have other special circumstances. Point B, a reasonable threshold of ownership interest in real property in the last 3 years should be established. Tenants should be allowed ownership of up to $500,000 real property. Point 5, multi-dwelling units. Point A, tenants residing in MDUs should be offered first right of refusal on units they occupy or on any other available MDU unit. B, the housing authority or a public housing entity of each city should facilitate the establishment of cooperatives for the purchase of MDUs. C, if MDU cooperatives do not materialize, the tenants currently residing in MDUs should have the option of purchasing any unoccupied surplus Caltrans properties. 6, 30-year covenants. There should be no covenants because a 30-year covenant will make it nearly impossible for low-income tenants and extremely difficult for any tenant or to obtain a mortgage. Covenants restrictions are contrary to the intent of the Brewery Law. In general, over the last 50 years, Caltrans has been negligent in maintaining its rental properties in the 710 corridor. The resulting dilapidation will hinder tenants acquiring mortgages. When properties in poor condition are further restricted with covenants, lenders are highly unlikely to grant mortgage loans to tenants.
Marie.
Thank you. My name is Marie Gibson, IBSEN. I have a Caltrans name also. It's spelled Risigari, RISIGARI-GAI. I represent United Caltrans tenants, and this is with regard to all sections 1 through 6. And I'm finishing the last part of the former speaker. Many of the tenants on the corridor have been in their homes many years and are near retirement. Covenant restrictions cause an undue burden. I have a section here, 7. Allow family members to purchase properties on behalf of the tenants. An extended family member, regardless of income, should be able to purchase a property from the qualified tenant. 8. Explain calculations. Which documentation details 2014 LA County median income stipulations? What is an income qualified buyer? See CCR Title 25, Section 6910. How is fair market value calculated? How is reasonable price calculated? What are minimum property standards? Number 9, questions concerning appraisal process. What appraisal process will Caltrans use to determine the value and sale price of each home? Will each tenant have an option to hire his or her own independent appraiser? And will Caltrans accept the independent appraisal in determining the value of the home? Will past inspection reports, assessed problems, and reported unfixed problems be included in determining the value of the property? Will California codes for habitability be utilized? Will closer comparable properties with characteristics that are similar to a subject property whose values are the same zip code be used to determine the value of the properties? For example, comparing homes of similar property and home square footage with similar bedrooms and bathrooms in similar condition in the same zip code, and more specifically, homes within the same neighborhoods.
Thank you, Molly.
Good evening, tenants from Sereno and Pasadena. My name is Molly Johnson, aka Lopez. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Caltrans UCT Property Management. Caltrans audit demonstrated their inability to adequately manage appropriations for repairing dwellings. Therefore, Caltrans should designate a public housing agency to administer the rehabilitation fund created by SB 416. 16. Relocation assistance, and this is important for our senior citizens especially. Tenants who must vacate due to sale of property should receive a 120-day notice to vacate, not to be required to pay for rent during the notice period, receive the maximum or in excess of maximum limits, statutory stipends, and other benefits contained in the Federal Relocation Assistance Program, and be relocated to available Caltrans housing, or Caltrans housing made available for their purpose. Tenants over 150% median income, the category over the 150% median income, and the prospective buyer in the priority order list is number 5. Number 5 should be number 4, and the number 4 should be number 5 on the list. Over 150% median income tenants should have the property to purchase a home directly from Caltrans, not to have to deal with the designated public or private affordable housing organizations, and purchase property at no more than original housing purchase price, OHPP, paid for by Caltrans, adjusted for inflation, Rule 72, and no less than the OHPP paid for the Caltrans. If necessary, Caltrans should enact emergency regulations to accomplish the above. This is an unfair situation, folks, and I believe from that this is a Chavez review situation.
Right.
We're going to be removed from our areas.
Patrick Garcia, and I'm addressing the current tenants not in good standing tenant category. Caltrans is performing a forensic audit on all tenants. It is unprofessional and unjust because in many cases the results are unfairly used to categorize current tenants as not in good standing, effectively eliminating them from the sales process. We completely disagree with the way that Caltrans is labeling tenants as not in good standing. For example, there are cases in which tenants fell behind on rent due to circumstances including loss of employment, illness, or death. There are also cases in which tenants were unable to pay rent because of rent increases, confusion, human error, or because they were underpaid by marginal amounts, in some cases less than 10 cents. One tenant was instructed by a Caltrans agent to deduct rent for urgent repairs that Caltrans was unable to pay for due to bureaucratic inefficiencies. In all cases, these tenants should be reinstated as tenants in good standing. In addition, any accounting errors discovered after 1 year should be absolved and absorbed by Caltrans due to their accounting inefficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 4 speakers, we have Dawn Jones, Hugo Garcia, Teresa Jaramillo, and Joe Kino. Since Dawn's at the microphone, let's go ahead and have Dawn Jones go ahead, and then Diana, if you want to go right after Dawn, that would be terrific.
Good evening, neighbors. I'm Don Jones. I'm with the UCT. I'm going to address 2 issues tonight. One is former tenants good standing. The second is the initial statement of reasons. The initial statement of reasons says that Caltrans only relied on the audit. Okay, the audit here at page 17 says that the 5 out of 7 categories were not sufficiently reliable for the purpose of this audit. So if 5 out of 7 are not sufficient for the purpose of the audit, how can Caltrans only rely on this document? They say they did not rely on any other technical document except the audit. The audit is infirm. Now, former tenants in good standing is a tenant category in which a review of tenant landlord laws in California suggests that these conditions should be used to determine a former tenant in good standing. That the former tenant's house was delivered back in a condition acceptable to the state, all past due rent, charges, costs, expense related to occupancy were settled. The legislation speaks of affected persons and the preservation of the fabric of the community. Former tenants in good standing should have demonstrable ties to the community, schools, churches, community affairs. Former tenants should have consideration for those on fixed income and income consistent with the intent of the reverting bill. Interest in other real property should be consistent with 3.A as previously mentioned. There should be an intent to reside in the home as a primary resident. If homes of last residency are not available to them, then we should have a preference to purchase long vacant homes with no claimants. We know that 17% of the houses have been vacant, some for 10, 15 years. They should be the first ones that if the former tenants cannot move into their old house, they should get a chance to buy these and upgrade the community. A registry should be set up for former tenants good standing. According to the Carroll New bill, they should be eligible to purchase either a dwelling which they previously resided or an unoccupied surplus dwelling. Former tenants good standing have not been getting notices of anything. That's why registry should be a...
Dawn, can you slow down just a minute, please? So I understand you've got 2 minutes. We'll accommodate, but we want to make sure we get it on record.
I will give you a written comment, so...
Thank you, that would be
problem.
terrific.
Can I get some time back?
7 minutes and 20 seconds.
Go ahead and continue, please, Dawn.
All right. Okay. Former tenants in good standing is a term in a population that is a legal stakeholder and as such have the right to know and participate in every stage of sales process. That's why a registry should be set up. Any person evicted or who have moved from their property for any reason related to the increase in rent, property sales within the time span of the last 5 years should have the option to purchase where they previously resided in any of the other vacant properties that will be for sale at the purchase price originally paid for by Caltrans acquired said property. We know that some tenants will be moved from their stay-at-home homes for reasons of the department need, they said. These tenants should be the beneficiaries of the law if they elect to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Diana?
Good evening, neighbors. My name is Diana Sereno. A 45-day commitment period is the minimum required by law, but it's not enough time in our situation. UCT consists of mostly working-class tenants and former tenants with families. To develop a responsible alternative to the proposed regulations without the help of a lawyer will need minimum of 120 days. Caltrans refuses to consider this request so far and can be seen as not only discriminatory, but it is a violation of the APA Administrative Procedure Act, intent to unconstitutional. As such, our comments are a draft document that needs more attention and development. Therefore, an additional 58 days extension is warranted. B, the state of California is not for-profit corporation. We also base our proposals on a comment notation in the fact in that the state of California is created by the people to ensure an equitable distribution of resources and to follow for the meaningful participation of civil society in state decision-making process. As a non-profit state, we hold to the constitutionally based nature of the Attorney General's opinion. Office of Attorney General Edward G. Brown Jr. Option number 7-801 issued December 30th, 2009, which states, therefore, we conclude that although
Hugo?
My name is Hugo Garcia. I'm with the United Caltrans tenant, and I'm going to read on the rent increase freeze. UCT calls on Caltrans to institute an immediate moratorium on any further rent increases. In the 2012 California State Auditor's Report on Caltrans management of State Route 710 extension project parcels and properties, the state auditor and their legal counsel concluded that Caltrans rental of the SR 710 properties at below market values constituted a gift to public funds, which is prohibited by the California Constitution. UCT asks, how can Caltrans charge fair market rental value on their properties if they don't maintain them as they themselves state they should? Caltrans is a documented slumlord who has miraculously avoided prosecution. Instead of being prosecuted, Caltrans has the liberty and repugnant audacity to raise rents at a 10% clip every 6 months. The state audit found Caltrans to be guilty of poor property management. Caltrans authorized repairs for many of their properties that were not reasonable or necessary. Caltrans failed to perform annual inspections. Caltrans authorized exorbitant repair amounts. Caltrans did not properly monitor its labor charges. Ultimately, Caltrans broke state laws and policies governing purchases from small businesses. This information is documented on pages 1 through 3 of the state audit. The list goes on and on. Why aren't these crooks in jail? Why haven't heads rolled? That's a good question. UCT challenges the auditor's conclusion related to its categorization of a gift of public funds. The auditor is failing to take into account decades of Caltrans' systemic failure in general maintenance and resulting property decay. The houses are falling apart, and the auditor says they should bring fair market rents. UCT demands a rent increase now.
comments on the proposed regulations. I appreciate your comments on other topics, but we do want to hear the comments on the proposed regulations, specific to the sections that are within the regulations. Teresa?
Nombre es Teresa Jaramillo. Sí, yo voy a hablar en español porque es mi lengua. El procedimiento de aprobar el aumento de la renta se propone que Caltrans establezca. Stop the clock. Stop the clock.
Se propone que Caltrans establezca inmediatamente el procedimiento por medio del cual se permitía anteriormente que los inquilinos apelaban al aumento de renta. En algún tiempo este procedimiento desapareció misteriosamente después de que se iniciaron los injustos aumentos de renta en el año 2004, los que luego Caltrans descartó. Todo inquilino tiene el derecho de apelar las prácticas de gestión de la propiedad del departamento, incluso la tasa de los intereses, aumento de renta. Toda apelación debe ser por escrito y ha de estar presentado dentro de los 15 días a partir de la fecha de la notificación de aumento de la renta. Los inquilinos tendrán derecho a comparecencia personal. El distrito informará a los inquilinos de su derecho de apelación y les explicará el procedimiento de este recurso para que los inquilinos entiendan minuciosamente qué constituye un motivo de una apelación, cómo hacer la apelación de manera oportuna, que la apelación presentada por escrito, el derecho del inquilino de comparecer en persona, los motivos de apelar la autoridad de aprobación. Los inquilinos pueden apelar los aumentos de renta cuando se cree que las tasas de interés de las rentas se han establecido de forma incorrecta, se cree que el mantenimiento de la propiedad de la parte del departamento es inadecuado, que un aumento de la renta causaría una dificultad financiera extrema. Una función básica del departamento de la revisión de los recursos de apelación es determinar que los aumentos de renta se han establecido correctamente y que los inquilinos han sido informados a fondo de la política de las tarifas de renta que requiere un valor de alquiler del mercado justo. Las apelaciones basadas en dificultades financieras extremas pueden estar basadas en la incapacidad de los inquilinos a pagar el aumento de la renta debido a gastos extraordinarios o excesivos, otros gastos voluntarios o del consumidor que hace que el recurrente no constituirá motivo para reducir el nuevo costo de renta. Gracias.
Is that in English?
Está en español, yo lo puedo.
Thank you, then it will become part of the record in English. Then we have Hugo here to translate for us, and Hugo will provide the statement in English. But we need her copy.
I'll give you the copy, so I want to read it in English. Is that okay?
Hugo is our translator here this evening.
I don't want him to translate. I want to translate. I'm with UCT. We can do our own translating.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask that we follow the procedures that we have in place, and Hugo is our translator this evening, and if she will provide the document to Hugo, then he will provide the translation for us.
No.
You want to read our own comments?
No.
You want me to do it?
Yes.
Excuse me, if you'll please have
Why
a
don't you
seat,
just let us do it?
if you will please have a seat, we'll certainly have Hugo translate for us.
Read our own comments.
Democracy, hello. Se los vuelvo a leer, pedazo por pedazo.
Do we have the comments?
For us, we want to speak for ourselves. Why don't you let us speak for ourselves?
Now you're calling the police. ¿Quieren le leo párrafo?
Her comments will be on the record. If she provides her comments, we will certainly get them on record, and Hugo will be happy to translate.
Why don't you ask her? I'm
Puedo
representing
leer
that
pedazo por
organization.
pedazo y lo trasladan.
No, let's get it over with.
Will you please have a seat? And if I can get the comments from Teresa, we will have Hugo translate for the crowd.
We don't want him to translate. We want to translate ourselves. We're the community.
Teresa, will you come talk to me, please?
We don't need anybody from Caltrans to translate anything. Usted tiene que hablar.
Usted, él que lo trata. No, es tengo 60 años de experiencia. That's not stipulated anywhere, so we can speak for ourselves.
So, are you going to be all right with us or not?
Pues no me lo traslada. Cuando estaba hablando había hecho un pedazo usted y un pedazo yo, ¿no? Está bien,
No,
si yo
no,
también lo
No,
puedo
pero
hablar.
¿quieres que yo lo hago?
Sí, sí.
Sí.
Esa no es,
Would you please have a seat so that we can get this resolved?
Así lo volvemos
Thank
a
you.
hablar.
Teresa?
Caltrans, it's not stipulated anywhere, so if we want him to speak, he can speak. Que lo traje
So I'm going to ask you one more time to please have a seat,
él. Yeah.
I'll sit down with
or I'll ask you to be escorted from the room.
It's
Not the first
stipulated
time.
anywhere.
Teresa, we would really like to get your comments on the record in
No,
English,
díganle,
if you would
ya
provide
mejor,
them.
hablo más español.
She speaks monolingual Spanish.
Why don't you just quit being difficult and let him speak?
You're wasting time.
Yeah, come on,
Pero
man.
él
Let's get on with
puede
this.
hablar en inglés.
Esa no es la opción, Teresa.
No, porque no quieren dejarnos hablar.
Deben dar una persona que there's no democracy here.
We do have a format that we laid out at the very beginning, and we would really like to keep this orderly and keep things in order, and the format includes that we have a translator here to provide those services for us. Teresa, if you would like your comments to be provided to the public in English, I would appreciate it if you would let Hugo provide those comments.
How about if I fill out for
My name is Hugo.
Teresa, I'd like to know from you if it would be okay for Hugo to translate for you. Hugo, could you please ask her for me? Thank you.
Dile que no. Quiere que lo pone con él.
No, con usted y
Ok,
que sea
pues dile que no quiere que lo haga.
olvídense que lo hablemos. Es mi barrio.
We had, at the very beginning, we talked about the ground rules, and the ground rules had one speaker per 2 minutes.
There was no stipulation on who can
Okay,
translate.
We'll go ahead and go on while Teresa makes a decision. Let's go ahead and go on to the next speaker. We have Joe, C-A-N-O, and then we have Lisa Almeida, Cynthia Wright, and Marissa, maybe W-O-J-C-I-K. So let's go with Joe, please.
okay.
I'm not going to face the community because I'm going to speak for the community. I'm your director at the Caltrans divisions. These regulations are...
Joe, excuse me, could you please state your full name and spell your last name?
Joe Cano, C-A-N-O. I'm speaking on behalf of the tenants because these regulations are being done in an environment of intimidation. These regulations will be illegal. There's a humanitarian crisis that will occur when you have elderly people thrown out of their homes, which constitutes elderly abuse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can contact the United Nations Civil Rights Commission to see if we can get something against Caltrans. Somebody does need to be arrested.
Thank you, Joe. Lisa, A-L-M-E-I. Hello?
Excuse my back, but I want to talk to Caltrans. All right, Lisa Almeida, you had it almost right. A-L-M-E-I-D-A. El Sereno tenant and UCT. senior outreach. Okay. Wait, stop. I feel there should be no covenant, oh, wait a minute. I'm speaking for various sections of the regulations. I feel there should be no covenants on any of your regulations. And how could Caltrans want to sell at fair market with the proposed tunnel under us? The value, as we know, will drop. And to this day, we tenants have no papers as to what you plan to do. And you keep pushing back the EIR. And I feel all the rent that seniors have put into their homes that they have lived in for 30, 35, 45 years, by now they own their home. Yes. I feel you should stick to the Robertiville law. I'll say it again. I feel you should stick to the Robertiville law. It seems Caltrans thinks they're above the law. Your regulations are unjust to all tenants, especially rent hikes and regulations such as director's deeds. That's not good with us. That doesn't fly. Maybe we should involve all the media, such as one of them was here today. So maybe we should involve all media channels to show that Caltrans, as we know them, as slumlords. Thank you.
Cynthia? Testing.
My name is Cynthia Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, South Pasadena. I'm commenting about section 1477, and it's concerning multi-tenants. I'd like to know how the agencies or the groups or nonprofits are going to be determined, and also what would happen to people who are in the property if it was sold to a nonprofit organization. And also, I have questions about the priority. How do you determine that they have a priority over the people who live there versus, you actually live there, and how do they actually get their house? That's all my comments.
Testing. Let's see. Next speaker, Marissa, W-O-J-C-I-K. And then it looks like we have Christopher Sutton, John Craman, and Lillian Russell. Marissa? Is Marissa here this evening? All right, let's go ahead and go with Mr. Sutton. Christopher Sutton, please.
My name is Christopher Sutton. My last name is spelled S-U-T-T-O-N. Caltrans released the draft regulations on May 30th, and the conference call said it was 56 properties they would initially sell. On July 3rd, they released a list of 53 properties, in effect amending the regulations on July 3rd. However, the process of determining the list, 100 here,
Louder.
the list of 53 properties they plan to sell first is on the list. You can take the copies here. And I have a copy. Okay, thank you. And I have a copy of the 2007 judgment, which is misrepresented in the statement of reasons attached to the regulations. The regulations do not deal with the process of selecting the properties to be sold. Caltrans has clearly followed other procedures not contained in the regulations in coming up with these 53 properties. Caltrans has clearly violated the 2007 judgment, which I brought 100 copies of, because they have not published regulations regarding the manner in which they select the properties to be sold. Caltrans needs to publish in the state register the full list of all the properties and go through and determine which properties are going to be sold on which schedule. They need to have an open process of determining which properties are going to be sold. Simply coming up with a list of 53 on July 3rd, posting on your website, violates APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, because there has not been a clear-cut, transparent process how Caltrans determines which properties to be sold. In violation of the judgment, this decision affects people who live in the properties and who live in the communities and the cities. Caltrans is determining the rights of people, determining the rights of the communities without going through the APA, without having regulations, and determining how the properties are selected to be sold first and when. So I'd like everybody to take a copy of the 2007 judgment, and everybody take a copy of the list Caltrans published on July 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Next, John Kramen, K-R-A-M-M-E-N.
It's K-V-A-M-M-E-N.
I apologize, thank you.
No problem. I'm just going to reiterate what Chris Sutton said. I believe that the list of all the properties Caltrans owns in the 710 corridor, their status, occupied, vacant, storing, should be public to this process. Everyone should know what the properties are and what their status is.
Lillian Russell, please.
Hi, I'm here to talk about a couple of the areas in the reg, proposed language. I think that...
Please state your name and spell your last name for the court reporter. Thank you.
Lillian Russell, R-U-S-S-E-L-L. I wanted to raise a couple of issues in the proposed reg language that I think fall short for potential first-time home buyers, which I think is a demographic that's overlooked in the affordable sales program. There's a lot of people that grew up in this vicinity that are essentially priced out or outbid out of their hometowns, and I think this is a great opportunity to bring in those demographic buyers at the end, provided that they didn't meet the other requirements. So one thing I wanted to talk about was in section 1478 with the covenant. I think there should be a covenant because one of the problems that's happening in this vicinity are the home flippers who come in and they want to buy a place, resell it. I think that we need people in this community that want to live here, raise their kids here, and flourish. I think that there should be a bit extreme given the ages of the buyers today, so I think that should be revisited. I'm not going to suggest the actual time, but I think 30 is too much. Also, if the buyers don't live long enough, then that presents other problems as well. So I think that should be looked at. In 1482, the burden on the buyer for their occupancy, I think that should be a little more explicit as to what it means for the first-time home buyer to actually plan to live in that house. They're not here to make a buck, they're actually here to be part of the community, and this is an opportunity that I think this program could allow them to have that chance. The last section is in 1489. The penalty for not complying with these provisions is 6% plus the years that the buyer did have the home. I think that penalty should be higher to discourage people coming into the areas of South Pasadena, El Sereno, etc., to try and make a profit off of this program when people actually just want to live in the area. And I hope that you will consider these points. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. I still have a card for Marissa. Is Marissa available to make her public comment? I also received a couple of cards from Mr. Jones and Mr. Garcia who have already provided comments this evening. If you would like to provide additional comments, we do have the comment sheets that are at the information table outside. Please complete the comment sheets at the information table outside. If you would like your comments to be read in English, Hugo, we'll read your comments in English for you now.
This Hugo? Is it this Hugo or that Hugo? You're Hugo?
Si yo vuelvo a decir un pedazo y usted dice... No, pero para que lo vuelvan a decir.
She's offering to do it little by little.
Párrafo. Ajá, un párrafo y él lo dice. Un párrafo y él lo dice. ¿Está bien?
Would like to put comments on the record.
Lo hice, pero con
You can place your comments in the comment box outside the door.
She wants to do it simultaneously.
Did you get that? You need someone that reads English.
You know.
But we don't want Does anybody want to write it in English? We have it in English. We got somebody that wants to do it.
Se lo enseñan después de que lean.
Mr. Garcia, I'm going to ask you to please sit down.
De Caltrans mío. No, usted tiene que estar del lado del que le paga. No, mire. Después
You should answer them.
se lo mando por fax. Lo voy a trasladar.
It doesn't work that way. No, I need to do it for her. I'm sorry.
It's in English.
No queremos que
If
usted
there's anyone else who would like to make comments, please fill out a speaker card. You can raise your hand, you can bring you a speaker card, or you can go out to the information table and pick up a speaker card. We'll be happy to accept comments until 8:30 this evening. At this point, I do not have any additional speaker cards except for Marissa, if Marissa is here. And otherwise, we'll be here until 8:30 this evening.
She's doing it out. She'll be right in.
I'm going to be outside to see.
Okay, we have a new speaker card for Carla Miller. Please come forward.
My name is Carla Miller. I'm from South Pasadena, California. This is regarding the 16 rent increase appeal process. That Caltrans immediately reinstate the former tenant rent increase appeal process that mysteriously disappeared sometime after the ill-advised 2004 rent increases were initiated and later started by Caltrans. One, tenants have the right to appeal the department's property management practices, including rental rate increases. All appeals must be writing and must be filed within 15 days from the date of the notice of rental increase.
Excuse me. If your comments are related to the proposed regulations, that's what we're here to listen to tonight. The rents and the rent increases are not part of the proposed regulations, so I'd ask you to please speak to the proposed regulations.
Stop the clock.
She doesn't even know what's on
Stop the
there.
clock. The clock is going. Just keep reading it.
This is the district shall inform tenants of their right of appeal and sufficiently explain the appeal procedure so the tenants understand grounds for appeal, how to make the appeal in a timely manner. Appeal must be in writing, the right to personal appearance, grounds for appeal and approval authority. Tenants may appeal rental rate increases when they believe rental rates have been improperly established. They believe the department's maintenance of the property is inadequate. They believe the rental rate increase will cause an extreme financial hardship. A basic role of the department in reviewing appeals is to determine that rental rates have been properly established and tenants have been thoroughly advised of the rental rate policy regarding fair market rent. Extreme financial hardship appeals may be based on tenants' inability to pay increased rent because of unusual or excessive expenses. Other consumers or voluntary expenses of the appellant will not constitute grounds for reducing the new rental rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we will remain here until 8:30 this evening. You may continue to provide your written comments until that time by dropping it in the comment box at the information table. If there's anyone in the audience or others who have arrived that wish to provide an oral comment, I would ask that you please fill out a speaker card and turn it in at the information table, and once I receive it, I will call your name to come forward to make your oral comments.
Roberto.